tell you something, guys. Fishing magician, man. Fishing magician, man. I'm a fishing magician, man. Fishing magician, man. I'm a
River Authority, they said, they gave me a whole box and they said, get these out to the kids. I said, God damn it. First thing I thought of was like, hey man, are you sure? The colors, they said, this is it. I was like, oh no.
Are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I just started recording, that's why I went over there.
Are you sure? Hey, is this the best marketing thing? Are you positive?
Sure.
I'm sure I don't have to make a cast of wish.
Yeah. We need to host this on the other side of the river.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So we actually have a picture, man, where all the kids are like, what's up? And they're all holding their bandanas.
They're all creeped out like
Yeah.
that. On the south side of the San Antonio
On the San Antonio River off of Military Drive.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, you ready?
As natural as it gets.
Just plain and simple. Okay.
Everything's good.
Everything's good.
Recording. We have 2 hours and 30 minutes.
We're only gonna do about an hour and a half. Go ahead and like rolling while we're getting the stuff, while we're getting it off the ground and rolling and finding our charisma. Think of your questions, since we didn't really get a chance to ask for outside questions. I mean, you can post on the Instagram and see, but I don't know how quick people will be to react to that. Okay, this is here.
Yeah, man. And so this is all on y'all's end, and if you want me to do anything on my end, let me know. You know,
we'll probably cut up like an edit or two. Mm-hmm. Like if we'll send you probably the full video first, and then if there's and when we're done, and you're like, man, I really want that out. I want that to be like known. Like, this is a big event coming up. Yada 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 yada.
Oh, okay.
Tell us. We'll cut it, chop it, edit it, and just Dropbox it to you, so then you can have like the highest quality of content to post for wherever you need to post it.
All right.
So whether it's your Facebook, Fin Addict, Facebook, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
All right, video's recording.
Okay, we good?
Yeah, audio's
All right.
recording.
Awesome.
All right, we're
and again, remember, none of this is live right now, so just have fun, be fun. We go from there. Make each other laugh, don't laugh, whatever. About a fist length away most of the time. Roland will let you know if you're venturing off, but let me know when you're ready, Roland.
We're good.
We're good? Alrighty, guys. Okay,
Roland,
so
I'm ready.
You're good? You good? Alrighty, guys. So welcome back to Unpacking Yakin. I believe this is episode 7. Today we got a real special guest, guys. He goes by many names here in San Antonio. Most of you and I and anybody out there probably know him as Shimano Penn, but this is Oscar Castillo. I'm going to go ahead and introduce a little bit about him, and then we'll get it started. So he runs the Fin Addict Angler Foundation. He also hosts Fin Addict fishing tournaments, Fin Addict Vets on the Water, Cast a Wish, and many, many more. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome, man.
Every time I see you, Albert, something special is going to happen, right?
Right, yeah. Let's do it. Yes, sir. It's been a long time coming, man. We're very familiar with one another. You're a familiar face in the fishing community in San Antonio, and that is why I was excited to have you on here. We had to push it back a week because you were doing what you do, helping somebody out with the Cast a Wish boat. We'll get into that in a little bit. So we're here. You can't tell on the video because you don't have you're not here with us, but it's a scorcher in here. We've got no AC today, so
AC, no air. You might hear a drop or two, right?
Yeah. If we're sweating, it's not because I'm grilling him with questions or he's grilling me. We're physically warm in here. I bet it's probably 80, 85. So we're gonna get through this as best as we can, guys, and we appreciate you tuning in. So Oscar, kind of how I start every interview, I like to get the background on you for people who don't know you, who've never met you, who who really want to know who the guy behind Shimano Penn is. So you born and raised in San Antonio?
I was, man. I was born and raised in San Antonio. Went to elementary, middle school, and high school here.
Awesome.
And,
What high school?
Breckenridge.
Hey, the Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles,
Yes,
man.
sir, the
Breckenridge.
Eagles.
I know.
My dad's a coach in SCISD he still is, but he got his start at Breckenridge. So
Really?
Breckenridge has got a good place in my heart, man. I think I spent 8 to like 15 there.
Oh, man.
So, you know, growing up, I went to East Central, but my father was the head baseball coach there at Breckenridge. So I got
that's
love for the
super cool.
Eagles. Yeah. So
Super cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you went to school here in town, and then what?
I did, man, and then at an early age, I was very fortunate to discover fishing. Right?
Who introduced that to you?
I would have to say my grandfather, my uncles. My mom's side of the family is all outdoors, and my dad's side of the family is all sports. And so I was able to have the best of both worlds: sports, outdoors, you know, fishing and hunting and stuff like that. But at an early age, man, we would travel and go fishing here and there and everywhere. And as I got older and ventured out from San Antonio, I was able to discover a lot of things that were going on in the fishing world, you know, such as tournaments and stuff like that, get-togethers. And so learning all that outside of San Antonio and going through that for several years, I wanted to bring it home. And that's how we got started.
Nice. So, born and raised in San Antonio, grew up. I guess I wouldn't consider that. I guess that's downtown, right? Downtown, Breckenridge.
Downtown, yeah.
I guess the south side of downtown, because, you know, right there next to Breckenridge, they now call it Southtown.
They do,
Super
man. The
fixed
Lone
up.
Star District.
Yes, sir. Right there by La Tuna. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've drank some beers there before in your day.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, I mean,
I've done everything there except have tuna.
Yeah. So shout out to La Tuna there. Yeah, we would go there after games, you know, coming of age into, you know, being able to drink, just, you know, going out there with my wife, girlfriend, wife now, at the time, spending the, you know, before a football game there, after a football game there. Just like I said, my dad's, you know, been in SISD for quite some time now. So that's cool, man. And what kind of fishing did you first start doing? Like, when did you start falling in love with fishing and why?
So I would have to say fishing the rivers, which later on I discovered is called urban fishing.
Oh, gotcha. So
Right?
you were urban angling.
So we were urban angling, man. And, you know, we were fishing a lot of the San Antonio River way before the remodel that it's gone through.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So there was
completely
a lot
different.
there was a lot of woods and all kinds of stuff. So that's where I started. I started fishing the San Antonio River. And then we have our local power plant lakes, you know, and catching freshwater redfish in 15 feet of water and 20 feet of water, which many years later blew my mind that there was redfish in 10 inches of water, right?
Yeah.
That kind of blew me away.
Yeah, well, if you don't mind me asking, when did you graduate high school?
92.
92. So, man, back in that, so 92, that's when I was born.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's the day I was born.
So in 88,
or the year I was born.
So in 88, when I started high school, you weren't even thought of yet, right?
Oh, dude, I was
you were maybe 4 years
a twinkle in my dad's eye, I guess, right?
Man,
but so what I was getting at is, man, the Calaveras and Bronig were really big bass lakes in the late 80s, early 90s.
Dude, that's exactly true.
I was seeing if you were old enough to take advantage of that, or if you were, you know, I mean, when I was 15, 14, I wasn't fishing the best lakes ever, you know, but at that time, if San Antonio had a golden age of bass fishing before because then they were introducing all kind of weird stuff in there. They had that like saltwater trout like thing. The Corvina. They had the tarpon, right? They tried to introduce, they put like 15, right? How crazy would it be if you hooked into one that still survived? But
and who knows how many other people tried to put some in, right?
Right, exactly, man. And all the alligators and whatnot, those are definitely probably pets that outgrew a tank. But anyways, so back in the early 90s, late 80s, the Calaveras was like, you go look at the state records for that lake and it's like 12, 13 pounds, and you're like, man, that it just seems like all the big bass, other than Ivy, all the big bass, all the lakes back in in the day. Just you look at all the state records in Texas at every lake, and it always seems to be in between 75 and 95. I don't know why.
And you know what, man? That's very true, and that's what inspired me to buy my first bass boat in 1996. Was because in the late 80s and the early 90s there was a lot of bass tournaments. Calaveras had bass tournaments. There was even a section at Bronick where they would race boats. There was so many things going on at that time.
The golden age of capitalism, man.
Yeah, but 80s. The bass has always been there. The bass has always been there, and so it's been a good journey so far.
Nice. Look, see, there we go. I'm telling you, dude, it's hot in here. I promise. So back, you graduated in 92.
92, the first 4 years of Brackenridge High School.
Oh my goodness! So you got to see it in its prime.
Before that, it was Wheatley.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm sure you're familiar if you've heard the name. Man, I'm drawing a blank here. It'll come to me. Head coach for Brack for the longest time, Willie Hall.
Oh, Willie Hall.
Willie Hall.
Yes.
Willie Hall. Yes, sir. Yeah. So again, I grew up with knowing who they were because my dad inevitably made his way to coaching in SAISD and being there at Brackenridge. So I've walked the halls, man, and man, I think they've renovated a little bit, like every high school has in town. But back when I was hanging out there in the early 2000s, it was it had been there since '92.
That's right.
You could tell.
That's right. You guys probably found some of our trails.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the construction you mentioned in San Antonio, they're actually going to build like a multi-billion-dollar like parkway on a section of the river right there by where Fox Tech used to be. I don't know.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's going to be a whole. I saw it for the first time. Now that my daughter is doing a lot better. We went to Fiesta for the first time since she's been out, and I got to see that construction. I got to see them like laying out the concrete, getting ready to.
That's right.
It's going to look pretty nice, but I bet it looked way different back when you were fishing it, man.
Man, there was nothing like that around, and so man, I'm. As far as fishing, I feel myself super lucky to be in the position that I am, to grow up without electronics and just like with Mother Nature. And a big icon of mine was Rick Clunn. So that guy's like he's spiritual. He talks and he listens, and so going into this age now where everything is so fast and man, I'm very grateful for the time that I've been in this industry. Yeah, I love it, dude. And when the power goes out, I'm still gonna be fishing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you said Rick Clunn.
Oh yeah.
And was he a bass angler?
He was a bass angler. Yeah.
That's nice. Yes. Again, my age is showing. If you're listening and you're like, hey, I know who that. Hey,
yeah, that kind of hurts my feelings, man.
But that's good, man. We all grew up liking different people.
Yeah, we did.
You know what I mean? I don't know that I could say I had one particular angler because my background's a little different. I'm sure we've already talked about it on the pod. I don't want to take too much away from you, but I didn't really have I wasn't like watching a tournament scene. I was just kind of fascinated by being on the water as a human on the planet, an
That's
animal
right.
on the planet, going from there.
He was Bassmasters Angler of the Year in 1988.
There you go. Hey, you were a freshman in high school right there, baby.
76 years old.
That's an impressionable year. That's an impressionable year. So there you go. And that's I want to touch base on that before we move on. You said you grew up without electronics. Are you talking about both in the cellular device age and the fishing scene, or just the cellular device age, the internet, the interweb, how our minds always looking for that dopamine hit now? Or are you talking about both?
Yeah, so I'm actually talking about both. In my era of growing up, and we're kind of referring to high school, cell phones were just barely going to come out, and they were the size of a brick, right? And they were called bricks and all kinds of stuff. But we had relied a lot on pagers.
Nice.
But even in the fishing industry, like a depth finder was the greatest thing, and it was in black and white. So it was kind of crazy, But I was very fortunate because as I was becoming into my 20s, they came out with color. So I was able to operate a black and white depth finder, and then go into a color depth finder, and then go into a down scan, side scan, and now you can literally
now you're playing
share
a video
heartbeats,
game.
with the fish. You know what I mean?
Now you're looking at our last guest, or our second to last guest, Rolando Nandin, Big Stick here in San Antonio.
Yes, great guy.
He's a great guy. He was explaining how LiveScope has changed the industry. How you can essentially, you could, like you said, you can look at the heartbeat and know when to throw it.
Yeah.
So bass fishing has made bounds in technology, and again, that's another reason why I was excited to have you on, because you've been there since the beginning, and now you're here. You've seen bass fishing change so much. That's how I feel. It's so silly about the road I grew up on Houseman out there.
Oh yeah,
I grew up and it was all woods. now it's apartments, business strips, a Sonic,
I was gonna say restaurants,
a bar, and it's like, geez, or on the opposite side of I-10 across from UTSA, that used to be woods. Now it's office buildings, medical buildings. It's crazy, and I'm sure you could tell stories for hours about the changes you've seen in the fishing industry.
I would have a lot of stories, but I can't remember them all. Right?
There you go. So after high school, man, when did you start getting into like the industry, the scene? When did you go from just, hey, I fish on the weekends because I love it, I got a bass boat, or continue with your story? Let's say you graduate. What'd you do after college, or what'd you do after high school?
Yeah, I was like, God dang, I went to college. Nah, I never went to college.
So what'd you do after high school?
But all I did was work, man. I raced cars, and I fished. Nice. And
where'd you work at?
I worked at HEB.
There you go.
But wait. Yeah, but I didn't finish. It was only for 2 months.
What happened?
God, they always grab everybody's attention, right? It was either that or Bill Miller's. They grab everybody's attention.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, but my family, they are in the plumbing industry. So I grew up doing plumbing. Gotcha. And right out of high school, man, I went. I had been doing plumbing since I was in middle school and high school, and so I did plumbing forever.
Nice.
And worked hard and played hard. Plumbing's a really good industry. The owner of Outdoor Alphas, Sam was a plumber. I've known Sam, I don't know, 20 years, maybe 25 years. His dad, we all worked together in the industry. Nice. And so I worked hard. I played hard. I love fishing. And
you said you bought a bass boat?
Bought a bass boat, man. Mm-hmm. And so I bought my first bass boat, 17-foot Alumacraft 96. I still have it, dude. And
how much was that back then?
It has a 40. I want to say it was about $4,000, and it had a brand new 40 horsepower Nissan. And I'm talking to you right now, but I'm imagining myself sitting in it right now. No,
hey, hair slick back.
Yeah,
what was the number one song on the radio? Remember the hit song?
Ooh, man, it's probably something from Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses, Driving to the Lake, right there.
Hey, but I was gonna tell you, man. So I love bass fishing, man. I was attracted. I was glued to bass fishing for a long time. And when I got my first bass boat, my first boat was a bass boat. I took my grandfather out to Bronick Lake, and I said, "Man, get ready." And so back then they had Zepco Red Rhinos and all these other rod and reels, right? Shakespeare was coming out, and but there was nothing like the equipment we have now. And man, I jumped on the trolling motor and I started working all the shorelines at Bronick, bass fishing.
Reeds?
And shoreline. I'm talking about like saltwater. But working all the grass and all the areas, even the rocky points too. And my grandfather said, "Man, this is way too much work, dude." He wanted to go to the middle of the lake, drop the anchor, throw out some fishing rods, and open the ice chests, right? and so we were on two different levels, but I was very fortunate to have that level of him instilled in me, and then this new level. At that time, it was new, man. Bass fishing, was nowhere where it is now, but it was amazing. So yeah, we jumped on the Alumacraft, and I tell you what, though, man, growing up fishing the San Antonio River and fishing on the banks and the shorelines of any body of water, ponds and stuff like that, is way different than when you jump into the kayak, you jump into the boat, right? I spent a whole year in my boat. My first year in the boat, I probably caught about 10 fish in like 12 months. I did everything wrong. It was just a whole learning process of being on the water, being in a boat, and you go through the same thing in a kayak. It's just different than fishing off the bank. And now with technology, some people will say, man, it's not really different, but because of Google, you can actually Google what's happening on Mathis Lake right now, and it's going to tell you everything. But when you learn the theory behind the method, that makes you a better angler. When you learn the reason why. And so I jumped on that bass boat, and man, I had no clue. On the banks, we were killing it. We were catching fish, at that time, stripers and redfish and stuff like that. And then we had bass on the San Antonio River and catfish, and recreation was carp fishing. But jumping on the boat, man, and a whole year not catching nothing, doing all the wrong things at all the wrong times. It's amazing to learn,
What were you doing on the boat? Like, it's the running joke is when you're on the bank, you're throwing to the middle of the lake. When you're on a boat, you're throwing at the bank.
Yeah, right.
That's the way it happens, man. It's funny. I mean, I don't fish. We've had to learn lakes heavy the last 2 or 3 years with my guys that I run around with because we've dried up. Lake rivers have dried up. We're getting rain right now. Yeah. If it continues for the next couple months, hopefully the fish survived and we'll get back out there. But we've had to learn lakes. And again, I'm more of a purist in that sense where I don't really like to get heavily involved with the electronics. So we just go out there on Ivy, on Medina Lake, whatever's left, Canyon Lake, all these lakes. And we're just there with our brains, our thoughts, our fish IQ, and we get after it. I don't care to learn the heavy electronics at the moment because I'm not in the scene of tournaments or anything.
That's
so
right.
I just like to be out there and being away from my phone, being away from my business, being away from people, and just hanging out with guys who are like-minded. That's what it's all about. But what were you doing on the boat that you were like, man, I'm doing everything wrong? Like, what techniques were you using, or what were you trying to do?
We were using all the wrong baits at all the wrong times. We were using crawfish maybe when we were supposed to be using shad. Just different things.
Oh, you're talking about time of year?
I'm talking about time of year.
Gotcha.
Just time of year, styles of fishing. In my early ages, they would say that I was a power fisherman. I had to have a spinner bait. I had to have a crankbait. And I didn't want to work a plastic at all, right? It was always fast, move, and stuff like that. And so, sometimes that kind of fishing in the heavy winter is not the right thing, or vice versa, right? So there's times and there's places for things, and so that's what I did, man. The whole year I was fishing for let's just say stripers when they weren't even active, they weren't even thinking about eating.
You were just headstrong.
And I was out there, trying it. But there's nothing like you mentioned earlier about fishing certain areas for so many years and then they start to dry up. I think that's what the beauty of it all is that you learn how to turn the page and you continue to, you're not going to stay home. You're going to continue to go out, and then you just discover so many other places.
I like where you're going with that.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
I feel that it's right now. I was actually talking with my our little friend group that we get after it. I was like, man, this is a new era for me. I got to get back out there and find them. 2017 to 19, I knew where they were. I knew what they wanted, and I was on it. Right now that the rivers are dry, now that they're getting filled back up, now that the lakes are 30, 40, 50 feet low, I'm in that era of discovering fish with new tactics, learning new things. I'm a dad now. I can only go out when the opportunity allows. So I've got to be more fish conscientious when I'm fishing. I can't just, go off and fuck off. I got to if I get one day a month to fish, I'm going to try to go on the highest percentage day when all the moons are aligning, and really try to focus on the craft. Because like you said, we're in a new era, Times have changed, fishing has changed, pressure with live scope has pushed fish in areas they're not gonna be normally, so on and so. And again, I'm fishing new water with just my brain. So that's cool, man. So you did that for a couple years out of college, and then let's jump.
I went back to college.
Dang it, out of high school. I'm sorry, out of high school. When did you jump back into?
Is plumbing college? I went, man.
It could be. It could be,
right? School. Yeah.
So that's what I was telling Roland too one time. I don't think he realized that. He was like, well, when did Sam get involved with this? I was like, man, I think he had a really good plumbing business and ended up selling that or letting that go or something, and then funneled all that into what we do now here at Outdoor Alpha.
That's right.
So that's cool. So after you were done with that, you're getting into your late 20s. When did you start transitioning into the Shimano Penn? When did you start having all these foundations, and when did you start really giving back to the community of San Antonio, which I know we could talk about for hours?
Yeah, right, for real. So we so in the early the early 2000s, I discovered tournaments, and so my first
Bass?
so my first bass club was a Seguin Bass Anglers.
Ooh.
And the reason why, man, I'm always thinking, dude. So when I was younger, I thought, do I want to go join a bass club in San Antonio? In San Antonio, I think there was I know there was 2, maybe 3, and a lot of them were young guys. Or do I want to join something like that?
Early 2000s?
Yeah, the early 2000s.
Or late 90s?
The late 90s.
Late 90s, okay.
The late 90s. And I said, or do I want to hang around with some old timers and learn some real tricks and proven tricks, right? So I joined the Seguin Bass Anglers, man, and I fished with 11 guys every month for 4 years, and we traveled. I was able to go to Amistad, Falcon, just all over, Bastrop and Coleto, and I had never been out of San Antonio. It was always San Antonio and Rockport, and that was it. So going and traveling with these guys, my first bass tournament, I pulled out the Alumacraft with the 40 Nissan, and at Bronick and Calaveras, I thought I was king of the hill, catching those football bass, right? And joining these guys, man, at the first takeoff, everybody, Choke Canyon, right? Four Fingers and all these other little names that they got for these areas. When they would blow the horn, everybody would take off, and at that time they were running 90 horsepower. 150 was huge. If you had a 115, man, it was fast. So they would blow the horn, everybody would take off, and in my 40 horsepower, I was the last one to the spot. So right off the bat, I learned about offshore fishing in freshwater, right? Because I was the last one, man, I couldn't get up in there. Everybody would beat me to all the hot spots.
Gotcha.
So I learned how to fish offshore, and then I found out that there was flats in the middle of and this is many years ago, and it just blew my mind. I was like, everybody always thinks that center of the lake is the deepest part, and stuff like that, and there's so much that goes on in the middle of the lake. But it was neat, man. I was able to learn how to fish deep, learn how to fish outside, and then I got a 90 horsepower, so I was almost there but still not there. And then I got a 200 horsepower, and I was able to get further up, but at any given time I could adjust inside or outside, just like sports.
Nice.
Anything that happens, I'm in, man.
There you go.
And so I was able to, I found out about the tournaments, I participated.
How many years?
Went through all the ropes. Ooh, man, a whole bunch. Is that a number? A whole bunch? 10?
10? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And would you stack up accolades wise there? Did you do well?
So, yeah, man. So I have a couple of wins under these bass tournaments with the clubs, right? It was nowhere near the way it is now. A couple of years ago, I won the Grande Bass shootout over there in Austin. But on
a kayak?
On a kayak, yeah.
Nice. They host that at Lady Bird, right?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. I remember.
It has. It's been a while.
I want to say Manny went to one of those and caught big bass or something. I haven't been out there in a long time, but so
yeah,
you did
man.
that.
So I did that, and I was doing a lot of shark fishing. I was doing a lot of shark fishing, and in 2011, I was coming back from this big event. At the time, it was just barely growing, but it was called Sharkathon, and we started it from the first year, and every year that it had been going on. I think in 2011, it was probably its 4th or 5th year.
When you said we started it, you mean you?
Yeah. So me and a group of guys went down, and we were fishing these tournaments, and we came across the Sharkathon, and we did that, and it's basically 3 days on the beach, and you're fishing for sharks, redfish, trout. There's different divisions, but in 2011, man, coming back from that event, I had just won a Yeti ice chest in a raffle, and man, at that time I think a Yeti cooler was like $1,000 or something. I'm exaggerating, but it was way up there, right?
It was like when they first came out.
Yeah, when they first came out. So coming back on 37, coming back home to San Antonio, we passed by Bronick Lake, and we were like 5-6 trucks deep, right? We were in 5 or 6 different trucks, and we would talk with walkie-talkies on the way over there and the way back. And so passing by Bronick Lake, I said, hey man, why don't we have a fishing tournament here on the bank for the community? We can go out and try to get sponsors and this and that. And so at the time, I was fishing with a lot of Shimano on my bass side, my freshwater stuff, and then Penn on my saltwater, right? So in 2011, you know, I'm talking about this on 37 South, and we're actually going 37 North, right? We're going back home and passing Bronick. And so all of my buddies thought I was crazy. They said, man, that's the stupidest shit ever. Like, you know, people here, they don't know about any of this. And I said, I know, that's why we're going to bring it. And at that time, the internet was coming out and there was fishing forums, right? There was no.
I just graduated high school in 2010.
Yeah, yeah. So there was fishing forums, and you would talk on the forums. So I went on the fishing forum. I swear that wasn't my sweat, right?
No.
Okay.
My pen. So you went on the fishing
you could hear
forum.
a pin drop. So I went on the fishing forum, man, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to put on a 40-hour tournament, a 40-hour shoreline tournament at Bronick Lake. And within like 3 days, dude, we were already up to like 100 people. And I said, man, you know what? Bronick Lake can't support that. It's smaller, Calaveras Lake. So 2011, we put on a shoreline tournament. And to even start about thinking of putting on a tournament, you have to come up with a name. Right, so we didn't know what we were going to call this, and I was thinking, and a lot of this was my idea, and what am I going to do? What am I going to call it? So because we had just came back from shark fishing, and thinking about the tournament, I was bass fishing, and then the following day we were going catfishing. I said, you know what? Why don't we just call this Fanatic? Like, we're just fanatics, man. We fish for anything and everything, bluegills, all the way to sharks.
And it just stuck.
And it just stuck. Yeah, fanatics. So then we did our first shoreline tournament, brought the community together. We had big raffles, and we haven't stopped. We're on our 12th year. So, but the one thing that I wanted to do was going into the shoreline tournament, I wanted to bring people together. So it was a competition, but it was more about like being family, being supportive of each other, helping each other out.
What time of year is that tournament?
It's in the springtime.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the springtime, and so having that event, having all these people come out, our numbers have reached 300-400, and people bring out their families for the weekend. We can have 500 people at Calaveras Lake, and so right after that, the shoreline, since we were big kayakers ourselves, we put on a kayak tournament, and we had a lot of people come out, and that was also at Calaveras. And we just did our 12th year in that. So we have a huge kayak tournament, and we have a boat tournament. So we have already targeted all anglers, right? Like fishing on the bank, kayak fishing, boat fishing.
Bank, boat, yak.
And so I always tell everybody, man, the shoreline people are about a 2-3x. The kayakers are usually like medium and large, maybe small and medium, and then the boat guys are extra large and 2x, right?
No, man, that's cool though, dude. And do you what specific date, or do you already have them planned? Did they already pass? I mean, technically we're in spring.
Yeah, so up next, June the 3rd is our boat tournament.
Okay, and
it's at Calaveras Lake, and it's a 6-fish stringer, 3 redfish, 3 catfish. We kind of mix it up, right? We're not asking for 25 catfish or anything like that. It's just 3 reds, 3 catfish, and then we have our kayak tournament.
Length, weight. What's the measure there?
The boat tournament is weight, and the kayak tournament is length, and the shoreline tournament is weight. But that's how we started Fanatic Fishing Tournaments, and we started that in 2011, and we started just hosting those tournaments, and everybody would come together for the weekend and on and on. But in 2015, I went to go fish a big flounder tournament in Galveston, and my mom and I had stopped. My sister lives in Katy, so I told my mom, "You want to go for a ride?" And she said, "Yeah, let's go." So we went to the Pearland, the Bass Pro Shop in Pearland, Texas, and they had a kids fishing event. So we walked it, and I saw some kids, man, who were totally frustrated. They had one kid had broken off, and they didn't know what was next. And then I saw another kid who was on it, on all the bluegills, tearing it up, and I could see the parents' encouragement, and they were helping them. So I told my mom, I said, man, these kids here, they need help. So I stopped, and I retied some hooks and showed them some different things, maybe the bobber, take the bait off, take the bobber off, drop the bait down, low, and just some different styles of fishing. And so then after that tournament, I did very well, and I never do well there. So on the way home, I said, maybe it was a sign from somebody that is going to be very supportive of me to get this done, to teach kids fishing. So we came back, man, and I started going on the Facebook. At that time, Facebook's already going full blast, and we started to go on the internet and say, hey, we're gonna have a fishing clinic, stuff like that, and people were coming out. I started volunteering with Texas Parks and Wildlife.
How many years has the Kid One been running now?
Ooh, as a nonprofit, as a 501c3, I have to say 6 years already, 7 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember that you had hosted at like Southside Lions or wherever, where there was an easy body of water, maybe that was stocked. It just obviously all in the hopes to, get those children hooked on fishing, being outdoors, getting away from screen time, getting back into loving loving nature. And man, this year, with us starting this, it's cool to see and have you on, because like you were saying, back in 2010, 2011, for us, social media was like MySpace, right? Yeah. You had a top 8, you you could like digitalize it, you had Mark Zuckerberg wasn't even a thing. It was, who was Tom, right? Tom was MySpace, Roland? That was the guy, Tom? Yeah, Tom.
Is that Peeping Tom?
Yeah,
just Tom?
Just Tom. We betrayed Tom, man. We betrayed him, brother. He's lost in the sauce. But so when you're talking about you were trying to get the word out there back then, you couldn't just post it on Facebook and have 100 people share it. No, it was, you said you were on the forums, whatever that meant, whatever website that was. Again, the internet is the, it's the deal breaker in the sense of it kind of alleviates gatekeeping all across. You can learn anything you want to on the internet if you have the passion, desire, and the time. But now it's just, I'm assuming in the next couple of years, with not only us doing this and you continuing to do and having the success that you have with the Fin Addict Foundation, with children, with hanging out with the community at Calaveras and all of that, I'd assume, man, it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Social media allows it to reach so many people. I was showing you how we're trying to push our socials, kind of the analytics behind that as well. And I guess social media has become so analytic driven that you can kind of harness and focus on where and how you want your content to reach who it needs to reach. So, man, we definitely want to do our part in helping you get, kids out there. You need no help in that regard. You've been doing it for years, but that's what I was really excited to have you on, man. You've done so much for the community of San Antonio. We'll get later into some of these bass clubs that you started with SAISD, which, I've got questions on that. But so that's cool, man. So you were just kind of like the visionary in the sense of you and your buddies were just doing what y'all love to do, and you were like, hey, I want this to be done here. And your buddies were like, oh, you're crazy. How are we going to get this going? How are we going to get it funded?
It'll never
work. It'll never work. I love that. I love when people say, oh, that'll never work. Because it just, it's fuel to the fire to keep you going. Yeah. But, man, it's been cool seeing everything you've done. Like I said, I've been familiar with you probably since Facebook days, 2012, 13, 14 or so. I'd see the Fin Addict. Again, I'm not big on the reds and none of that stuff. But, again, this year and the coming years when you're hosting your tournaments, I do want to be a part of it and promote it and help, just help continue to grow that love of fishing, whether it's in the bank, on the bank, in a kayak, in a boat here in San Antonio.
I tell you what, man, and there's so much out there. When we started the fishing tournaments, there was really nobody else doing it, right? It was just us and once a year and stuff like that. And I mean, nobody else doing it as far as like what it is now, right? Now there's one every weekend. But the one thing that has helped us through all this is that we've been doing this for a long time and our roots run really deep. We have great supporters that we don't talk about every day and on and on and on. But we are so fortunate because when we started, a lot lot of people were into our idea, right? They were like, this is good. And I will say one thing really quick. When I put on my first fishing clinic, official fishing clinic as a 501c3 nonprofit, we opened the Addict Angler Foundation. I went out and I invited all my fishing buddies to come out to Pecan Valley Park, which is now Southside Lions, and we're gonna set up stations and we're gonna talk about stewardship of the land, safety, knot tying, casting, and then fishing. I invited all my fishing buddies, and everybody showed up. And when I looked around, I said, "Man, these are all the wrong people." I invited all these fishermen to a fishing clinic, and I was like, oh, for what I wanted to do. I wasn't selling a product. It was just angler education. And but then I found a niche for that too. So then the second one, the third one, and now the 200 and something thousand one that we've done. Hey, that sounds pretty good, man. That's like $250,000. Mm-hmm. No, but now where we're at. So we go to schools and we go to outreaches. I've gone to a lowrider car show and talk about fishing. I've gone to hospitals and just on and on and on. But then I did find a niche where, as an angler, doing the same thing over and over, you kind of stop and forget about things because it just becomes so repetitious. Mm-hmm. So we started hosting other kinds of clinics, different levels and different styles, and I think it's very important. So you
basically invited all the people who knew what they were doing to a clinic to learn about how to do it, and you were like,
about the basics. I said, man, these are all the wrong people.
Yeah, they would have been great instructors for that event, but you needed to reach a different target market. Cool, man.
Exactly, that's very true.
And I feel like you've dialed in that target market pretty well, huh? I mean, I'm sure your the children's one, is that the one? No, that's not the one. When is that one hosted? The one in June is a tournament on a boat.
Yeah, that's tournament on a boat. Yeah, but I mean, man, so here we are today, but this coming Saturday we have an event on the San Antonio River, right? And I guess this is going to air later, right?
Yeah, later, but we can maybe pump out a reel before.
Yeah, so I was going to tell you guys really quick that this coming Saturday on the San Antonio River, and of course right now we're kind of dealing with the rains off and on, but as we stand right now, it's 100%. It's on. We're having a clinic. I got over 320 something people pre-registered throughout San Antonio from all over, man. From all over north of 1604 to south of 410. And I mean, we have. I'll tell you one thing really quick.
So what is it on? So
it's on Saturday, right? We're having a basic angler education course Saturday on the San Antonio River at Castillo Park. Mm-hmm. 9 in the morning to noon. And I'll tell you one thing about fishing is that when we held our first, and I just really thought about this a year ago, but we had our first high school fishing club. They asked me, who are you anticipating to come? And I'm thinking in my mind, 6 jocks, 6 athletes, right? And the first guy to come in, man, and this is at Harlandale High School, the first guy to come in is a skateboarder. And I said, oh man, this is cool. And then the next guy to come in, he was in band. Big dude, tall, big dude. And then the next guy to come in was a rock and roller, Ozzy Osbourne shirt. And I said, man, okay. And then comes in the one jock that I thought, and then comes
baseball guy.
Yeah, right. And then comes in a girl, and then like another girl, and then a guy. And I'm looking, and man, this group and the photo, I'm gonna cherish forever. But the photo is a whole bunch of people who love fishing, who is so diverse. Not one person was the same. You didn't have to be 6 foot tall to go fishing. You don't have to be 4 foot tall. You don't have to weigh a certain weight. Like, fishing is for everybody, dude.
Yeah, and
it's for everybody. It's so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. It encompasses all walks of life. Neat. And I think that is, again, I've said it 100 times. It's not like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. That's the main goal of the channel, man, is to showcase that every person sitting in the chair across from me is going to be different. You're going to have similarities.
real.
but they're going to be different. They're going to be, you know, a guy from here, a girl from there. You know, it really. I think it's because people forget that primally, man, fishing is primal. All of our cities, all of our major, you know, civilizations, they were congregated around bodies of water because bodies of water provided life. Whether that's food, whether that's fishing, whether that's taking a shower, whether that's cleaning up, you know, you need water, you need that. It's all part of, you know, congregating around.
I think the big billboard right here in front of us, our outside, says water is life.
Water is life. There you go. Water is life. You always hear when they're like, well, there might be life on that planet because there's water, right? Because there's ice, right? So I think that's why we're all drawn to it. I mean, hell, if you want to get down to the science, I think, Shimano, we are 75 to 80% water.
Yeah, we are.
As humans, you know? So I think we forget that. Man, that's great, dude. I really love.
I got about 10% of that water coming out of me right now.
right. You got waters running down from you. So I want to touch base back on that, man. So back in 2011, you really started doing the tournaments here in town, hosting it for the community, getting more people inspired into the community to go out and be on the water. You said this Saturday. What date is that? Let me see. Today is the 10th, so it's got to be like the 12th or 13th, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's
maybe the 14th.
It's the 13th.
The 13th. Okay.
13th
so
Saturday.
The 13th, you've got 300 plus people pre-registered to come out and learn about fishing. And what are you going to be teaching there? Like basic knot tying? Are you going to be teaching casting? Like what goes on in this super novice event and what age group does it or are you targeting?
So we target 5 and up, right? But I mean, if anybody has a 3 or 4 year old, like bring them. You might only be able to stay halfway, but at least you get a taste of it and you'll be able to come back. So, because I don't say no to anybody, but you know, if we had a preference and the flyer says 5 and up, but if somebody calls and you know they have a 1 year old or 2 year old and this 1 year old, you know, wants to learn or the parents want to teach them,
their dad
like
fishing.
bring them, you know, bring them. But we teach stewardship of the land, which is about littering and watershed, and so the San Antonio River is the best place for that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we start off there in our clinics, and then we talk about safety. And safety, it's a pretty big range. Life jackets are important, but it's even more important that the life jacket fits you.
And I think,
right? It has to fit you.
And then also too, I'm sure you talk like this out there, but they've kind of changed the term from life jacket because that's assuming that it saves your life to personal flotation device or PFD for short.
Yeah, PFD.
Gotcha. I know that's a big thing that whenever that changed, I was like, that makes sense. Because when you say life jacket, you're kind of giving, I guess what's the term? I can't think of it. I'm losing it, but it's like false hope, where it's like if you wear your life jacket, you're going to survive, right? It's going to give you the best chance, but that they had to make that terminology change where PFD, and I'm a big advocate for that. I actually told Roland this summer when it gets a little warmer, I mean, not that it's not warm now, shit, we're burning up in here, but there's a lot of content that needs to be created and produced for kayak anglers when it comes to safety. So I want to go to Bernie City Lake, go to the middle of the lake, have him with a high cam like this, put that camera on our Bonafides, you know, shout out to Bonafide, rocking it and just holding it, and I'm going to flip on purpose. And I want to show open water re-entry because it's not if you're going to flip, it's when. And learning how to keep your calm, don't worry about your gear, your life's more important than any rod, and teach proper open water re-entry with a high-res camera, with our social media knowledge. That's what's going to really, you know, give that information out. So we see, I feel like you and I are one and the same when it comes to the education aspect of it. You're doing it your way. We're going to have our way. I definitely want to get involved to the coming events, you know, in the future. I'm sure Roland is as well. He's been learning fishing for the last, 5 to 6 years, I would say.
Yeah. I actually need to go to one of your classes on how to tie a fucking knot.
Yeah, no, for real. He's, you know,
I don't know, man. I heard him outside talking about some big old swim baits.
Yeah, no, he's swim bait god. That's what's our running joke. He's swim bait god. But no, man. I mean, that's the other thing too. We want people to feel comfortable to ask questions and not feel dumb, not feel intimidated. That's the word I was looking for. We want anybody and everybody to ask a question because you know how it is. You've been in the tournament scene. You've had your eye titles. You've been a young brown boy from San Antonio coming and asking a question that may be off-putting to somebody who's been doing it their whole life, and you're not afraid to answer any question. So you start with the stewardship of the land, and that's great to teach children not to litter, not to make sure you're picking up after yourself, even if you didn't leave the mess, you want to leave it better than you found it, and so on and so forth.
The whole process of watershed, right? Like even though we're a mile away, things are potentially going to wind up in a river, in the ocean, even though we're 1 mile away. So man, stewardship of the land is huge. It's huge. It's important. And what happens, I think, just in life is that people's actions are kind of made up from how they were brought up, right? Or only what they knew, or only what they saw. So I kind of feel that it's important, man, to have stewardship of the land in there. And then you teach them why. There's a theory, I've said it before, there's a theory behind the method. There's a reason why we do certain things, and there's a reason why certain things happen. But jumping from stewardship of the land, going into safety, safety is huge, man. Sun protection, just wherever we're at, that's what we're going to talk about. If we're at the beach, we're having a big event, Memorial Weekend in Rockport, a kids fishing tournament. We're going to talk about sun protection, and we're going to talk about oysters and just hard heads and just everything that is affiliated with that style of fishing on the beach and the pier. And then we'll have
what date? Oh, you said Memorial Day.
Yeah,
weekend? That's
Memorial Day weekend. I think that was the 28th of May.
So later on this month, I'll be going. I'll be in Florida, actually. But that's actually so good because I didn't learn any of that until I was older. I didn't learn any. I didn't know the first time I went saltwater fishing, Oscar, I was 19. 20.
But you knew baseball, right?
But I knew baseball and I knew fishing. and guess what? And my buddy, he gave me these moon boots. My best friend Travis, he gave me these boots, and his dad worked for the fire department. Gave us these Kevlar boots, and he's like, "Hey man, you got to wear these out there." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Cut, all this." I'll get to it.
But that's the only reason why you knew is because
I had a friend whose dad who taught him. My dad's like a cat, doesn't like water, doesn't really get out much. So he didn't teach me that growing up. And then I learned about oysters. I learned about the potential dangers of stingrays,
of being in that scenario,
of being
that surroundings.
Being in a situation. I don't think people realize how dangerous kayaking can be because it's perceived as this. Oh, it's a Sunday stroll down a river, and again, your life could end on that river.
That's right.
So again, I think we need to work on pushing kayak safety hard for content this coming year, Roland. I think that's something that will really boost engagement to the page, not only in our personal pages but also on the Unpacking Yakin page. We're definitely going to get involved with you. And then funny story on the oysters, man. My friend, all that safety he taught me a year and a half ago, he fell out of his kayak. He caught a Texas lamb, caught a redfish, caught a flounder, caught a trout. I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's go get a badass pick. We went down in some mangroves. He falls out the kayak. I turn around. He's face first in the water, comes up, and his hand is sliced.
Oh, yeah.
He fell right on an oyster, and that's where I always say kayaking by yourself is very dangerous. You don't want to do that. I ended up having to take off my shirt, one of these fishing shirts, wrap his hand up. I had to paddle him back about a mile and a half because his hand was incapacitated. He couldn't paddle.
That's right.
And I had to take him back, and we had to cross the intercoastal. I had to freaking drag a 220-pound, 6'2" guy in his native across, and I'm in a freaking pontoon, my bona fide. And man, those safety precautions are so important, and I think they're overlooked. And it's really good that you're there teaching those to people who, again, maybe didn't grow up with a mom or a dad, or didn't grow up with somebody who cares or knew anything about fishing, and you want people to be safe. So stewardship of the land, safety, and then start getting
into the fishing. Yeah,
gotcha. That's the fun part.
That is the fun part.
Gotcha.
So on our volunteer side of things, everyone wants that part.
Yeah, nobody wants to teach the other part. starts and so on and so forth.
But so then we jump into the knot time. We teach the Palomar knot and the improved clinch knot, and we keep it simple. And so after you kind of go through those two, then you go to casting, just how to cast forward, just different methods of casting, whether it's overhead or sidearm or something, however you feel comfortable, right? Some kids are left-handed, I'm left-handed, and then some are right-handed. So we kind of figure out how they hold the rod and reel, and then we work with them just to cast. And then after that casting station, we have another station where we have some plastic fish, and we teach them how to cast to the fish, and it has a little lure on the end.
Oh, Roland's going to benefit from yours big time.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a little side casting in front of you deal, and then we get to go fishing on the river.
Nice.
But I think education is very important, man, very important. And anytime that we talk to adults and they say, well, my kid knows everything, I said, that's perfect. We need your kid to help us. If you know it all, man, you're perfect.
That's funny. But that's awesome, man. So you go from all that, you end it with like getting out there and live action. And after that, I mean, that's pretty much the clinic, the class. You said from
that's
9
pretty
to
much
12.
it. And so anyone that comes out and completes that course with us, of course, the course takes about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. It just depends. But all the people run through that course, and at the end, they get a certificate from Texas Parks and Wildlife as a basic angler. It's a really neat deal, man. The kids love it. The adults love it. And so...
And how much is the class?
No, it's free.
Free? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you said it's Saturday from 9 to 1?
From 9 to noon.
9 to noon. All right, I'll make sure Roland has somebody running his bread route because he needs that. What did you say it was called? The certificate?
A basic angler. Texas Parks and Wildlife Basic Angler Certificate.
Angler Certificate. Yeah. Yes, sir. We need to get Roland certified.
we have a website, fanaticangler.org. From the San Antonio.
So the website?
FanaticAngler.org.
Okay, and they can sign up for all the events there.
Yeah, we have a calendar of events. We're going to Brook City Base 4 times this summer. We're having, I believe it's in June, but we're having a kids like fishing clinic. And then 2 weeks later, at the same place, we're having a tournament, and there's bass and catfish in there. And
at the City
Brooks,
Base.
Yep. Okay. At the Green Line.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
We got all kinds of stuff.
So you're getting kids educated, and then getting them introduced into competitiveness of angling, because that's right. I mean, that's what drove you back in the late 90s, early 2000s to. What drove me to get out there and really try to make a name for myself in the fishing world as in a kayak and a plastic boat chasing green fish. And I think it's awesome that I would say you are probably the biggest name in San Antonio when it comes to pushing education and pushing fishing into the homes of people who maybe weren't fortunate enough to grow up learning it and loving it, because it is something that anybody and everybody can benefit from, and I think that's,
we have pictures to prove it.
Yeah.
Anybody.
I mean, I man, when it's kind of like, I don't know really a good way to say it, but I love seeing people catch their biggest fish ever, whether it's a red, whether it's a bass, whether it's whatever. Sure. I mean, I was lucky enough to be there when he caught his PB, which is like, I remember it's like 6.5 or something. Yeah. I mean, it was after a storm. We had to kind of dodge a storm. We had to hang out, let the lightning pass. I mean, and I caught an 8 right after. Like, it was a fun day on the water.
You had to throw that in there, right?
Oh yeah. Like, we had to, he's over there probably doing some market research.
He had to throw in that 8, right?
So like, but dude, he was like, oh my God, holy shit. And like, and just seeing somebody that excited about like, tricking a fish, being out there in the wild, being an animal on the planet amongst other animals on the planet, experiencing the planet, like that whole day will be ingrained in, I'm sure his brain, my brain, because it's just, we got to experience the planet. We got to dodge a storm, and then we got to, physically be involved evolved with a planet and another animal of that planet. So it's just it's again, call me a dork or a nerd. That's how I think fishing. You know,
even though people say go fishing, it's relaxing.
Oh yeah, there it is.
That was it.
Oh, that was it.
Yes, sir. Look at that PFD,
man,
the
that
whole
looks
nine.
bigger than a 6. Dang.
We didn't have a scale. It was guesstimate. No, I'm just
Yeah, we're
kidding.
just guessing on that.
We were just using the TPWD metric system.
Oh man.
You know how they have their like their
That's right.
inch to weight ratio.
At least the sun looks good in that picture.
Oh man, it was raining. We're just trying to dodge a storm, and I didn't expect to catch anything. Like, I threw the jig out there, and as soon as I was reeling it back, next thing you know, I just saw the fucking fish come up and bite it right before it hit the surface of the water. And sure enough, I was like freaking out. I was like, oh shit, I caught one.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I was gonna say a little while ago that people say, you know, I love fishing, man. It's just relaxing, and there's nothing like it, and being out there with nature. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, you must have never lost a big fish before.
You must have never lost a big fish. You must have never lost an expensive rod and reel. You know, I mean, fishing's love hate. But it truly is a passion. That's awesome, man. Yeah, so that's good, dude. I really liked what we talked about here. Real quick, I'm gonna do a product spotlight, and then we'll move on with a couple more questions. I know you got to get going. You're doing something with an elementary school, which we'll talk about here in a second. So the spotlight product today for our biggest sponsor, which is Outdoor Alpha, is some hard baits. Summer's coming around, hot and heavy, right around the corner. And when you're transitioning from that fall to spring bite, then spring to summer, those fish are going to be shallow on the lakes for the next maybe couple weeks to month, but then they're going to start getting down there in the deep once it gets to those dog days of summer, those 100-degree days. So in the mornings early, when the weather's cooler and the fish are moving, a jerk bait is a hard bait to not have tied on. This is a Canada made by Megabass. There is 7 different flavors here in the store. As Jesse likes to say, this bait is $24.99. Obviously, if you're throwing these, you know why they cost that much. You know why they, you know their action. They've got 3 trebles, Gamakatsu hooks. They're the real deal. Once it starts getting down into the dog days of summer, now this one doesn't dive too deep. This is a 0 to 1 foot, but 6 cents makes anything from a deep diver 15 to 20 feet to, subsurface a foot to 0 to 1 foot there. Obviously, when those lakes turn over to that hot weather phase, having a good crankbait and a good jerk bait for different times of day, like you were saying when you first started, you were out there throwing jigs in the winter and spinner baits in the wrong time. So when you're learning, these are good baits to throw. This one is $8.99, and there's 5 different flavors of those here in store. So make sure you come check them out. When you do buy anything in the store from Outdoor Alphas, if you use Unpacking Yakin at the checkout, you'll save yourself 15% on any purchase. So before you head out, man, grab a reel, save 15%. Yes, sir. So now back to Shimano here. You said you started that bass club at Harlandale, right? And that was a big deal because that was technically the first bass club situation here in San Antonio, correct?
Yeah. So for sure for the south side, the west side, the east side, to have an official high school fishing club, we were the first ones, man. And actually, I don't know many people, but I know some people think that things just come natural. But I had been working on that for 2 years. For 2 years, I wanted a high school fishing club, and there was a lot of obstacles, but we never gave up. And once we learned how to get through those obstacles and make it through, here we are, man. Next year, we'll be opening up 2 more. We're going to McCollum. We're going to South San. And next is to get into SAISD. I've talked to some people at Burbank High School and Brackenridge, so hopefully we can get into SAISD next year. But next year we'll have three high school fishing clubs.
So you'll have South San, McCollum, and Harlandale.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we have some elementaries. We have some 4th and 5th graders, some elementary schools too.
Sweet, which we'll talk about here in a sec, because that's why we're going to wrap up soon, because you got to get going on that. Now, those high school bass clubs, what are you doing there? Are you going going out? Are they going to tournaments, or are you just doing the basics first and then the next year maybe start stepping out and getting kayaks or bank tournaments? What's involved with a high school bass fishing club? Because in high school, man, I was worried about partying and women, if I'm being honest. If somebody came out and said, hey, we're going to have a bass club, I probably would have been interested in it because I was an angler. I played baseball. But at the time, I mean, I went to East Central. There was nothing like that out there. You know, East Central, Highlands, it's all in the same area. Yeah. We all played each other, you know, in whatever you call it, you know, in the same conference, rather.
That's right.
So what does a high school bass club entail, for those that don't know?
So, man, to be honest with you, it's going to entail with what the students give me. Right, so Hardendale, they love bass fishing. So we go fishing at ponds. You know, we talk about line, we talk about braid, we talk about fluoro. And so for some of these kids, again, they're only introduced as, you know, different ways of fishing as to what is around them. So many of them didn't know about fluorocarbon. You know, many of them knew only about big game, monofilament. You know, and so going into a class, you know, I feel out the kids. If you want to learn about shark fishing, we're definitely going to cover that. You want to learn about cat fishing, we're going to cover that. And they're just custom. Even though behind it all there is a curriculum. You know, there is a curriculum again of the stewardship of the land, of the safety and the knot tying, but we just elaborate like on different styles of fishing. And so for Hardendale, it's been a lot of bass fishing. Gotcha. And you know, we talk about gear and all kinds of stuff.
And you haven't taken any of them out to like run any tournaments quite yet? You're still in the, it's brand new, right? Last year was the first year?
Yeah, so it's brand new, and we're kind of just feeling everything out. We're feeling the districts out, right? You know, how much support are we getting from the districts? Because it's all about support, man. You know, just Addict Angler Foundation itself, we're only able to do what we do because of the people who support us. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was first doing this, the fishing clinics as Addict fishing tournaments, I was putting on little fishing clinics, and the support was me and my friends, and we were only able to do what we could do, right? And as we got into the nonprofit side of things, the Addict Foundation, then we got bigger support, and we were able to do bigger things. So right now, one of our main focus is to get support from the community and to let people know what we're doing, and we're gonna go from there. We do trips to the hatchery, mm-hmm. you know, in Corpus Christi, and we teach the process of the redfish, the trout, the flounder, and but yeah, man, next school year we're gonna hit it super hard because now we know what we could do.
You've kind of filled it out a little bit. Also, too, with these SAISD inner city schools, southeast, west side of town, you don't have the luxury of growing up with, you know, maybe a dual income household where you can afford a boat, where you can, you know, it's just, it is what it is, right? Yeah. San Antonio is one of the most redlined, you know, cities in the country. I don't think many people know that. I don't think many people know that in San Antonio you can have a multi-millionaire, billionaire living right next to somebody who's $10 away from poverty, right? Yeah. That San Antonio is very bad about our red line districts, the history of it. That's why you have Alamo Heights next to, you know, what's the SAISD school next to Alamo Heights, but they're just incomparable.
MacArthur High School next to it.
Who?
MacArthur High School is one of them.
I mean, it's just insane. Like the division of wealth in our city is based on how our districts are redlined, based on how much taxes are, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if your tax line is right where this guy who owns all the IHOPs in San Antonio is going to be able to, you know, put money towards the city or towards the school, and the other one, mom and dad are working overnight, you know, barely getting by, you can see where, you know, there's division. It's not equal in San Antonio.
And then years later, HOA was discovered. We didn't have no HOA back then.
Right. So, but that's cool, man. I hope that maybe in the future, one day you can get that off the ground and be able to find those diamonds in the rough that can really whoop some ass in the fishing scene. I know Bernie has a fishing team that goes out and competes at the high school level, but I will say there's got to be some inner city kids that just didn't get the chance that could put it on or compete at those levels in high school. And I hope that one day you find those guys. You will.
It's coming soon,
it's
man.
Coming.
It's coming.
You'll find that guy that just has that knack for throwing a bait caster and killing it on the water, catching 5 fish to lay it down.
And you know what? I'll tell you really quick. The greatest thing is that when we do find these kids, like, we are going to be able to support them in their dream. So I'm ready,
awesome.
dude.
We're gonna definitely get involved with that for sure. And then moving forward here, couple last points so we can get you out the door.
And then questions.
Yes, the questions. So the foundation. I know you have like a dinner once a year, right?
Yes.
And that's going to be your biggest banquet. That's and I know that because I've talked with, follow a guy, hang out with here and there. I've fished with him in certain places. Robert Rodriguez.
Oh yes.
So like he's always out there at Calaveras and Brawn Egg catching fish on swim baits. He has obviously taken a liking to swim baits. So him and I've bought baits from him. He's asked, I've asked for pointers. He's asked for pointers. Again, I like being involved in the community, from the guys who are just painting baits in their backyard to the guys who are competing at the highest level like Rolando. San Antonio has it all.
We do.
So the banquet, when is that, and how do people get involved?
So the banquet it passed already. It was in March, but it's in every March.
Okay.
But going back to Robert Rodriguez, he has a great story. If you ever ask him about us, one of his deals was that when he first started kayak fishing, like, we were kind of up and running already a little bit, not as much as we are now, but back then, and we accepted him with open arms. Man, there's so many people that have stories like that, and they're just like, we'll never forget it, and they don't forget it, and we don't forget it, and we just keep doing what we're doing, and since then, man, he's helped us out tremendously in what he does, which is his hand painted lures and
the tacos,
the tacos,
the
tacos,
yes, sir, those big girls at Calaveras eat them up, and that's funny too. Yeah, Robert, man, San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the country, but it's got that small town feel.
That's right.
Robert's connected to me in a way that's random too. He, I believe, works for a door company that is a buddy of mine from high school. His brother is married to their daughter. I've launched, him and I have launched at that guy's house at Almadena Lake. I'm sure it's like 1,000 feet from the water right now with the way the lake is. But I've met up with Robert. We plan to get back out there. Maybe I'll do some content out there at Woodlawn Lake, catch a body, some crack, and a bass,
a rim, maybe a rim,
a wheel, pick up some plastic bags, right? Talk about stewardship. But so that's cool. And how can people get involved with that banquet? Is it like a members only deal, or can anybody donate?
So in the banquet is every March. We have it at the San Antonio Food Bank. Sometimes we have it at the outdoor pavilion. Sometimes we have it at the indoor area there. But it's a big deal. We sell tickets. Again, our website, fanaticangler.org, has everything on there. I will say one thing, man. In 2019 was one of our biggest years, and even for our banquet, and then going into 2020, when the COVID hit, it kind of shut everything down, right? And they asked us, and they said, man, what are you guys gonna do? Are you guys gonna have this banquet or not, or what's gonna happen? And I said, man, we're not gonna stop. Just tell me what the rules are. And they said, well, the rules are 6 feet apart, outdoors. And so we did everything, and the foundation never stopped. We never stopped having our fishing clinics. We never stopped having our fishing tournaments. All we did was follow the rules. Hand sanitizer, 6 feet apart, whatever you touch, you kept. So the overhead financially on our clinics went up because we weren't able to get the stuff back. Right. So we had, stuff like that. So what do you call it? But we never stopped, man. We never stopped fishing. We never stopped communicating. We were advised to do so many different things, and I told people, just don't stop living, man. Keep enjoying life. You just have to figure out how.
Yeah, you persisted through the pain. Yeah. That was such a weird time, right? I'm glad we lived through it at the age I lived through it, because I remember like when COVID, my wife and I, we had bought our house right as it hit. Like we got our keys March 6th. Then they shut the city down like the 22nd, 23rd. Yeah. I remember calling my buddies who are cops, like, are you going to pull me over if I'm like the only car on 1604 taking like boxes from my apartment to my house? And then I remember, hey, are you going to pull me over if I've got 2 kayaks hanging out the back? Like, I'm social distance, baby. It's just me and my buddy. I'm on the water, It was such a funny, I can't wait till we're 10 years out and we'll talk about.
I was so nervous because they kept saying, man, if you're overweight, you're going to be the first one to go.
Hey,
said, man,
all of San Antonio said, huh?
Yeah.
Right. So, and thankfully, man, everybody got through it. Unfortunately, we did lose people. We did.
Yeah, we did.
The world saw some changes, and we're on the latter end. We're on our way up. We're on our way out.
Right.
Life's getting back to normal.
We just got to figure it out, and we just adapt.
That's what I was gonna say. I found that the guys who we've interviewed that have kind of, people either use the pandemic as an excuse, or they used it as a way to switch it up, to adapt, to change, and come out for the better. Like I said, some guys, girls, whatever, they use it as an excuse that, I can't do nothing, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
And the guys like yourself, you persisted through, you followed the rules, you did what you had to do.
And it was tough, man. It would have been easy to shut down, and go back to fishing. For me, fishing all the time. But man, I have a passion, and I just keep pushing.
There you go. And then last thing before Roland's got his questions from the people on the interweb. You said you're leaving to go to elementary. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so we have an elementary fishing club, 4th and 5th graders.
Nice. What elementary school?
Gilbert Elementary. It's called Gilbert Elementary, and it's a mix. It's mixed, half girls, half boys, and those kids, man, I'm so proud of them. They can tell you the state fish, saltwater, freshwater, like they know the difference from a largemouth and a Guadalupe bass.
Roland, what's a state fish, saltwater?
Yeah.
No, without Google.
Oh, Roland.
What?
What's the state fish, saltwater? Got him.
Yeah,
Got him.
man.
Who wants to be a millionaire? 5th grade questions, baby. Failed.
Man.
He knows the freshwater. What's a freshwater?
Guadalupe
Guadalupe bass. Yeah, so you know what's weird about that? There's no limit on them. There's no nothing. You could catch 10 and eat them all.
And there's a lot of them in the San Antonio River.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
100%.
Yes,
like Albert and I had this idea. We'll talk about it after the pod.
Yeah. We got our guests lined up. We've
That's
been
right,
lining. We've had you lined up for several weeks and so on. So what questions did you have, or did you have any from the audience?
This is from Instagram. So the reason why I've been glued to my phone one night is because I was talking to our friend Marshall about the lure we saw.
Oh, nice.
So he was blowing me up.
Nice.
And then of course the questions. So, all right. So this is from I'm gonna throw his name out there. This is from our friend Ray. Ray wants to know Shimano or Penn.
Ooh, I have to say Penn.
Penn.
And where did the name? Where did you kind of get the name Shimano Penn?
He talked about that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So Shimano, back in the '90s, man, I was using a lot of Corrados, and they used to have these green Corrados, right? Yeah. And I'm left-handed, so they were 201 Corrados, and that's what I would use on my bass fishing. And then I would turn around and go surf fishing the jetties or the beach, and I used nothing but Penn. And then here several years ago, we made a deal with Pure Fishing, and so Pure Fishing is all Penn. So now my freshwater gear is Abu Garcia, which I was very fortunate because that's kind of what I grew up with. Abu Garcia.
Yeah, my dad grew up with that.
Yeah, so we all grew up with the round reels, even though they were 4,600, 4,500, the round reels. But then going into the bass fishing, man, for me they were kind of heavy to be flipping, 1,000 casts a time. And so yeah, man, Shimano Penn. And then social media came out and they said, I'm going to advise you to make a page, on Facebook. And I didn't want it to be about Oscar Castillo going to go eat pizza and all this stuff. I was like, I didn't know what was going to happen if I said, I'm going to the coast. My house is empty, as far as like no one's there.
Yeah, like I was mentioning at the beginning with my, with my parents. Hey, don't be posting that on Facebook. Now they're going live.
That's right. And we didn't have cameras back then for home security, but so I made Shimano Penn. Yeah, that was my.
And the name
so is that your current
and
Facebook?
It's stuck. Yeah, it's stuck.
I mean, it stuck. You do look like somebody named Shimano.
So I do get messages like, "Man, your parents must have been really cool, this and that to name you that." But
right, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then the other.
I will tell you one more thing. My younger brother, my only brother, he's a fireman with San Antonio Fire Department, and
shout out to him.
And so when he sees people with Fanatic shirts, he'll say, say, oh, have you been to their events? And they say, oh yeah, man, I know Shimano Penn. And then he says, no, I don't think you do, because you would know his name is Oscar.
Yeah.
But Shimano Penn, man, it just stuck. It stuck.
So people
awesome.
come up to you at these events and like, what's up, Shimano?
Yeah, what's up, Shimano? Yeah, we were just in the Fiesta Flambeau night parade.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, man, we were in there. Everyone was like saying Shimano.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay, and what else, Rolando?
All right, so then this is from our good friend Manny. He wants to know what happened with the kayak he donated to y'all.
Ooh, so Manny donated a kayak to us, probably about 3 years ago, maybe. One of his old kayaks. Yeah, we still have it.
Oh, y'all
Yeah, we
still
still
have
have it. Yeah.
And you use it? You
Hey,
let kids
and
use it?
his sticker's still on there.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Skinny Water
man.
Girls?
Well, I think it says boys.
Yeah.
I think it says boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. And so, and like that stuff is not even on the internet. I don't even think we put that on Facebook. He just called and said, "Hey, man, I have this kayak," and I think he was moving, and he had another one, and so I thought he was going to give us the new one, but he gave us the old one. Nah, I'm just joking. But just out of the blue, it was like on an evening, and he came over and dropped it off, and he says, I'm going to give this to y'all, and that stuff like that happens all the time. Yeah, man.
No, man, he's a good guy.
And we're so grateful for that.
Man, he's a great guy. We've had so many people like, when's Manny coming on? And I'm telling them it's different because he's like a brother. Like we have literally become brothers. Where when we're partnered up and we're bass fishing, we're a force to be reckoned with. But he's actually like a brother to me. Like I was just in his wedding. I've grown to become part of his family. He's grown to become part of mine. And it's like I told him, man, when we have you on, we got to remember that not everybody's gonna get who we are. So I want to introduce you as like, who is Manny B? Kind of like we got to learn who Oscar Castillo is. Hopefully this sheds some light on this is Oscar Castillo. This is how I grew up fishing. This is what made me become Shimano Penn. Why now we know the story behind Shimano Penn. So on and so forth, man. Manny's a great guy. That doesn't surprise me at all that he donated a kayak for the community, for the kids. And then is there any more?
Just me. One thing I noticed being observant since the few times we ran into each other, I always see you holding a cup. What do you have in the cup? It's always what I've wanted to know.
Yeah, right. What's in the cup?
What's in the cup? What are you drinking?
The only thing that I would say to be on the safe side is that what's in the cup is coming out of my pores right now. So hopefully you can see this part, but it's coming out, man.
That is funny, man. Yeah, he was.
I was on the phone with Albert, and I was just like, I don't think I've ever seen him without a cup.
Yeah. He was like, oh, Shimano. Dude, he's always got a cup.
So I'll tell you one thing. So my mom is a nurse, right, for over 40 years, and she's retired now, and she's actually the president of our foundation, and she does everything for me. But when COVID first hit, she was like, Oscar, this whole COVID thing, it's airborne, on. You have to keep your throat wet. I was like, I got no problem. You have to keep drinking something. You have to, have something to wet the whistle. I got no problem.
Okay, so the last question that I always like to finish off with, just because I want to get really in a year from now, I want to look at everybody's answer to this and just kind of maybe make a book about it or maybe make like a zine about it, just to help keep people out. What are your top 3 tips when it comes to fishing? And with you, since you do both salt and fresh, I'll let you divvy it up how you want, but what are your top 3? Like if you, and this is again, maybe not for the novice, maybe not for the pro, but somebody who knows safety, knows watershed, knows all of that, but wants to catch more fish. What would you say? Man, let's do 2 and 2, 2 salt, 2 fresh.
So, man, I mean...
And what are you starting with, fresh or salt?
So, I'm going to start with freshwater.
Okay.
So, freshwater, and this goes back to kind of like angler education. People say, what are the rules, right? I'm going bass fishing at Bass Drop. What are the rules? I said, well, you need to look them up because the rules change from Bass Drop to Granger, right? Or somewhere else. So if you're going bass fishing, man, I have to say that, follow the rules. Texas Parks and Wildlife has an app, and they the app came about because they used to produce an outdoor annual booklet, and a couple of years ago there was a misprint in the booklet, so there was no way to take that back, the misprint. So then the app was kind of introduced because they could change it on the fly. We have a big freeze, the trout gets shut down.
I learned some of these new rules. That 17 inches is now the keeper trout.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that there's lots of people that don't understand. I know Roland's, because he hasn't been out there. Bass Drop is a slot lake.
Yes.
So there's rules for where what fish you can keep, what fish you can't.
That's what I'm talking about.
I fish Bass Drop tournaments. Obviously, I keep bass if we're camping.
Yeah.
Fish tacos here and there. Turf. But yeah, if you go to Bass Drop, you need to know that that's a slot lake. You can keep fish between here and here. Anything, and it's weird, right? It's like I don't remember off the top, but it's a slot lake. So there's certain rules. Okay, that's a great tip.
Yeah, and some largemouth bass, starts minimum 14, some starts minimum 15,
some 12.
So some 12, right?
Yeah.
12. So you have to know where you're going, and I mean that's a big tip.
That can honestly apply for both. So that's
a
your
big,
We can go back to 3. So that's for
right.
both. That tip is a great tip.
You have to know where you're going. Look it up. See what the limit is. What the regulations are.
2 more. 1 fresh, 1 salt, because that one will just count for both. Because that's a great tip.
Yeah, and so I would have to go back to my Seguin Bass Anglers days, and I would say don't be afraid to use a cotton candy.
Cotton candy.
Damn, I was going to let it out, right? Dun, dun, dun. I was waiting for the drum roll.
A cotton candy.
I would say a cotton candy Cinco.
Cinco. Okay. When in doubt, bust the Cinco out. Okay?
Has to be a pink. A hot pink.
Okay.
I was so shocked. And you know what, man? I think that...
You think it's because of visibility?
I think it's because I think because it looks different. Everybody got away from it, and we're always trying to come up with new inventive ways to catch fish, but sometimes you just got to go back a little bit.
Okay,
it's super cool, man.
And then the saltwater tip to catch more fish in the salt.
Oh, golly, man! I would say tides.
Learn your tides.
Learn your tides. Learn your tides. That movement. Incoming, outgoing. I know, fishing, man. Fishing is so wild. Some people live by the moon. Some don't care for the moon, and on and on. And I've caught fish in both. But, I mean, tides, the moving water, just stirring things up. And it's because I get into the angler education side of things of the pond web, and what feeds off of what and on and on and on. So you definitely need, some moving water. You need oxygen.
Gotcha.
It's
those are tips from a man who's been doing it for 3+ decades.
Yes, and if you like the class I'm going to right here, 4th and 5th graders, you can ask them on any day, what does a fish need to live, and they'll tell you, man, oxygen, shelter, space, and they got it down packed.
That's awesome. Dude.
It's super cool.
Well, that's been Shimano Penn, Oscar Castillo. Thank you for coming out, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Like I said, this guy is a San Antonio native, a San Antonio staple with education, with taking you out when you're down and out. And guys, check out, what was it, Fin Addict Foundation?
Fanatic Angler.
FanaticAngler.com or .org. Check it out. All his events, everything will be there. Okay, so the next question we'll bring up, Oscar, is about your Cast-A-Wish. We brought that up. What did you want to talk about that?
Cast-A-Wish, man. Cast-A-Wish is it's a new program that we're rolling out. Last year, I had a phone call from a lady from the San Antonio Food Bank, and the reason why I'm always dropping names and stuff when this is because there's a lot of people behind us that support us, and so there was a lady from the Santa Rosa Hospice talking to her friend who worked over here, and they were just randomly talking, and the lady from hospice says, it's crazy, but I have someone who's on hospice, and their last wish is to go fishing. So then our friend over here on the other end of the phone, she says, I know the perfect people. We've partnered with them before, and they do a lot of things here. And so she called me and she asked, would you take this family out fishing? The man's on hospice. And I was like, man, I didn't even think twice. I was like, let's go. I'm ready. And then we get into all the legal stuff. And it's like, well, man, who's this? Who's that? Who's held responsible? Yeah, right. There's doctors involved, and we don't know, about this person.
What type of machinery they need.
Yeah. So then I went from being on King of the Hill, just in thoughts of taking this guy out fishing with his family, to it not happening at all. But then again, we didn't stop. We just pursued, what are the rules and what are the regulations. And so after we got through all that, man, we took him fishing. A buddy of ours, David Ortega, has a big old Carolina skiff. We took this guy out fishing, him, his wife, his daughter. And so during this whole process, before going fishing on the actual day, I was thinking we have to come up with a name. What are we going to call this? Because I fundraise all the time, so I have to show, right? We're a 501c3, so I have to show where, and not only are we a 501c3, we're 100% volunteers. So even though I eat, sleep, and breathe this, like, I get no money from this, right? Nobody does. We just put it all back in and we rock and roll with it. So we came up, or I came out with Cast a Wish. We took this guy out fishing. Man, it was an amazing time. His daughter caught a fish. The wife, caught a fish 10 minutes later. He caught a fish 15 minutes later, and then he was ready to go home. And that's when I knew that it was real. I thought we were going to be out there all day and do this and that. But we went out there, man. Each one
Where'd
of them.
you go?
We went to Calaveras.
Cool.
And so that was a special time in my life, because on the way out to the spot, we jumped on the boat. We're driving out in the boat in the middle of Calaveras, something that I've done 1,000 times. This family, man, dude, they were so excited. And I looked at them and I saw the smile, and the lady had like a tear, and I was over here like, man, this is amazing, because I do this, I've done this 1,000 times, and this is something that they had just wanted to experience and do, and we did it. So then right after that, I was like, man, Cast a Wish, we have something. So then we took 2 guys that I've known for a while in wheelchairs, and they're my age, and they have a hard time to get around, but they've always talked about fishing. So then my other buddy has a pontoon boat, Raul. So then we were able to take them. We were able to wheel them onto the pontoon boat, and we took them fishing, for over there at Calaveras, and caught redfish. And then we took some military veterans, who really. I got a phone call in the middle of the night. I said, man, they were telling me, my buddy who called me says, I have this group of guys. There's 4 of them. They really need to get out. And I said, man, let's do it. So I knew that there was a special niche for situations like this.
Who'd you take last week? Because we had to push back the interview for that.
So last week we actually got the boat. So I had an older boat, a Cajun boat, and my buddies from Mulder Fire Protection redid the whole boat. So I had to go pick it up, and we had to go run it, so that we're gonna take somebody out next weekend. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. I was having that realization when you were telling your story about, like, guys on hospice. You were talking about the legality. Yeah. I was thinking in my head, like, man, one day will be the last day I go out, right?
Yeah.
And, I hope that day is a long time from now.
That's right.
But as you get older, as you grow up, you can kind of start to see that fruition come, that one day in the future, hopefully I know it, right? I know it's going to be my last time, but it will be my last time on the water. I plan on fishing, kayak, river fishing, till I physically can't. That's a big driver of health. We talked about it before the pod, how when I lost all that weight because I couldn't bend over and tie my shoes, I knew this is not fun. And that's either not fish or get my ass to where I need to be, right?
That's right.
It was that adapt and overcome. To take away fishing from me on something I could have a change in, an involvement to change, it was dumb. Like, I was like, this is stupid. I need to stop being a piece of shit. I need to get back to what I was. I need to, and this is just me coming from a personal standpoint. And I was just like, you know what, I can't, and I've seen guys when we go out there, we've done all of it. Me and my boys, we've done it all. The Devils, the Pecos, any river within 500 miles of here, we've stepped foot in. And And it's like, I've ran into guys that are in their 60s still doing the damn thing. And I'm like, you know what? That's going to be me. I don't ever want this fire to stop burning.
That's right.
I do know that one day I will succumb like every human does.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can really reminisce in that, or really, take in that last trip out. And that's cool that you're able to do that for people.
Yeah,
man. That's awesome.
that's a position that we're in, that we can make that happen. We can make it happen for people who are in, those situations. And it's big, man. It's big for us. It's big for us. It's big for the city. It's big for the community. It's big for friendships. And it's all with fishing.
Nice.
It's all fishing.
Yes, sir. It's tribal.
It's tribal, man.
It is tribal is what we come to find out. Well, that's awesome, man.
Real quick, you said you take disabled people on fishing? 'Cause
Yes.
I have a guy who I need to link you to. His name's Jason Tabasky. He's a veteran, disabled. He's an archer, but he loves to go fishing. So
really,
yeah, I'll try to.
Yeah, man,
get you guys in touch.
So I'm also the vice president with Heroes on the Water, the San Antonio chapter.
Okay,
and we're redoing that. So I have 16 kayaks, but we can go on the boat. We can do anything at this point. We can go in Sam's Jeep to the beach,
Man, now you're donating. We got a brand new 2023 Gladiator.
Oh man, I'm telling you, 4-wheel drive.
Hey, todo.
AC.
Run down the pin.
Hey.
He put all that money into the Gladiator. We ain't got no AC over there, man.
No, but hook us up. Honestly, we can do anything. We just gotta figure out what the situation is. I'll tell you really quick. We had a big trout freeze, and the reason why I share my stories is because other people could pick up on it, dude. I have nothing to hide. You know what I mean? And so we had a big trout freeze, and we were scheduled to have a trout tournament at the coast, and it's a big fundraiser for us. So this trout freeze comes, kills thousands of trout, whatever the numbers are.
They change regulation. 17's the minimum.
And so the freeze happens the week of the event, and so they call me and they say, "Are you still gonna have the trout tournament?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Man, that's the worst thing ever." Rah rah rah. I said, "Don't worry about it." And you know what we did? We brought in the trailer from Texas Parks and Wildlife. We brought the big trailer in. We had a trout tournament. They brought the trout in alive. We threw them in the trailer and they went to the hatchery. And we were able to save those that were out there and take them to the hatchery and have them reproduce. And that's solid. Like, I could tell you what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could tell you that we got these fish. They went in this trailer. They went to this hatchery, and we're helping the system, as opposed to if they would have stayed out there, who knows if people would have ate them. I'm just saying.
And then now when you go down to the coast and you catch a trout, you could say, "You're welcome."
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah,
Hey,
just keep thinking.
you're
man.
welcome.
Just keep thinking. So if you're in a wheelchair, we'll put you in a pontoon. If you're this or that, I'll tell you one thing. So this weekend we have the event right at Asiquia Park. Next weekend we have this event called Anglers on Wheels in Port A, and we take wheelchair people out on the old Island Queen. And so whatever the situation is, man, we'll make it work.
Okay,
we'll figure it out.
So the Finn Addict Foundation adapts and overcomes is what that sounds like. Well, that's awesome, man.
right.
Sounds good, brother.
Yeah, man.
That works, dude. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace out.